This is QTV News and I am Mariatu Sidibe. Our top stories. More startling revelations at the TRRC. Women's participation in CRC lauded. Kiang to start enjoying electricity. Gambian writers launched 3 books. Those are our top stories and now the news in detail. Hearing at the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission TRRC continues into the second week. The 4th witness to testify is retired Captain Alaji Kante. The retiree explains to the commission his dissatisfaction in the Gambian National Army and how things unfolded leading to the 1994 coup d'etat. QTV's Babukar Sise was following the proceedings and he now reports.
Retired Captain Alaji Kante says he joined the Gambian National Army in 1995 during the 4th intake. The retired captain asserted that at the time, morale was very low within the army due to negligence and corruption by the PPP government and total command and flamboyancy by the Nigerian army that was training our soldiers.
The grievances were both against the Nigerians and our government for allowing a repeated humiliation of its troops and soldiers who did not show any sign of weakness or something. If anything, it was the government that has caused this coup, because from one stage to the other, they did not take care of their own end of the bargain. They tampered with our dues. They did not give us what we deserve. They brought in foreigners and started giving them more than they deserve, or more than us. And so all these things came up as grievances against the government itself. And then also we saw that the government was itself not clean. You know, this is a government that was corrupt to the core. We saw it. We're intelligent enough, we are old enough. And that's why we said we'll bulldoze the government and the Nigerians will go. And that's what happened on the 22nd of July, 1994.
The retired captain said he supported and joined the 1994 coup, but was against bloodshed and never condoned torture and arrest that followed afterwards. He explained his role and assignment as a member after the coup.
At first, I felt a little under siege. I felt like a captive, sort of. It was like my opinion was not sure whether I was going to go home and remain there and not be part of it. That was not what that idea was. But I knew also the dangers of outright saying, no, I'm not going to be part of this whole venture. But of course, this is something that I wanted to see happen, and it has happened. It had happened. So I thought the best thing to do was to be part of it, play my role, and make sure I become the usual voice of moderation and common sense. And this is the role I continue to play throughout my contribution. I was told that I had to put all the barracks in order. I had to go around to see what was happening everywhere, the checkpoints, the barracks, and so on. So that was my duty there and then.
Kante, who said he deeply regretted taking part in the coup, described Yaya Jammeh as a liar with no discipline, Sana Sabali as lack of maturity, Edward Singate as someone who enjoys inflicting pain on others, Yankuba Toure as a clown, and Sadibu Haidara as nice but lonely. The retired captain explained that he was arrested and imprisoned less than 2 weeks after the coup.
Men came and said I was under arrest. I said, whose orders? He said, Lieutenant Sabali. Where is Lieutenant Sabali? He's in his office. I attempted to rush to Sabali to find out what the hell was, sorry for my language, what was going on, and I was blocked. And I was surrounded by a huge entourage of soldiers who disarmed me and requested that I be taken to Mile 2 prison.
Retired Captain Kante was released from prison after 3 months and reinstated into the army. He was later appointed governor before falling out with the junta again. Fearing for his life, he eventually fled the Gambia for Senegal and finally to Switzerland. Babukar Sise, QTV News.
Gambians have been sharing divergent views on the ongoing constitutional review process through the nationwide consultation tour spearheaded by officials of the Constitutional Review Commission. Key among them is women's participation. Commissioner Janet Salanjai has described their participation as overwhelming. She was speaking in an interview with QTV's Aliou Cisse at Fajikunda, where CRC officials led by the CRC Vice Chairperson, Awasise Sabali, at a meeting on Monday.
Women, they say, are key in the development of any country. How has been their participation in this process so far?
I think women have played their role in the consultative process. I think if you look at the communities visited in the communities, we had overwhelming participation from the women. In fact, the consultation is organized in such a way that after the plenary, as you can see, we always have three groups. We have the men, we have the women, and we have the youth. And they've been participating, they've been playing their role. As you are aware, I mean, if you look at the dynamics, the demographics of the Gambia, women are in the majority. Over 50% of the population is women. So we cannot do anything without women participating and playing their role. And also pleased to mention that the National Women's Bureau and the National Women's Federation, they've also formally made a submission. Those of who are watching the TV will see that they've made a formal submission to the Commission, which will take into consideration. And I think the Women's Bureau and Council have done a very good job, because in every community we visit, the women councillors have been very vocal and they've been speaking out. I think one of the issues that has come out repeatedly is the issue of a quota system, not only for women, but for all vulnerable groups, women, the youth, and the disabled. It's been coming out very well. So I think I'm pleased to say that the women have been playing their role.
What does the Women's Bureau want as far as this process is concerned in their submission that they have sent to your office?
The submission has been made. There's so many issues raised. We're yet to analyze the full submission. But I can tell you off the cuff that one of the issues that have come up is the issue of our international obligations under the CEDAW, our international obligation under the protocol to the African Charter on Women and on Women's Rights. And that calls for a percentage. So we're looking at progressive involvement of women on a basis of affirmative action, so that at least 1/3 of all decision-making positions, we're not only talking about the cabinet, we're only talking about the National Assembly, but of all decision-making positions, as far as they're concerned, should be allocated to women. So those are some of the issues that will come out. But like I said, we are yet to distill the entire submission made by the Women's Bureau. But when they were submitting, this was one issue that stood out, which they made in giving us the highlights of their submission.
The first electrification project in Kiang has been launched by the National Water and Electricity Company NAWEC on Saturday. The project, which is expected to last for 18 months, would provide access to electricity for the whole of Kiang and over 80 communities in Lower River region. And Sumane Esonyasi witnessed the ceremony, and he now reports.
Neglected for decades, the people of Kiang and other parts of Lower River region would finally enjoy electricity. This electricity expansion project, implemented by NAWEC and Kai Industries Limited, is funded by the Indian government. In an interview with journalists, the managing director of NAWEC, Baba Fatajo, said this is a historic project, as part of this country has never enjoyed electricity.
Prioritize this project because we feel that this is an area that has been neglected, and they should also have access to our services. This is a project that is coming from the Indian line of credit, a $22.5 million project. And Kiang is part of the communities that are going to benefit from the project. But because of the importance that we have attached to electrifying this part of the country, sequencing-wise, we are starting from here. And this is why the first batch of materials have started coming in, and we have decided to relocate them to the Kiangs so that the actual physical implementation will start in earnest.
Speaking earlier, the project coordinator, Lang Sabali, said work has started in earnest.
Well, the total scope in terms of coverage, we have 80 communities, and about 25% of that lies in Kiang. All right? We have almost 240 kilometers of low voltage line that we will run. And 25% of this will be in Kiang, which is almost over 50 kilometers to 70 kilometers. All right? Yeah.
What is the duration of this project?
The project is slated to last for 18 months. All right? Within 18 months, we should be able to complete and light up things.
Other speakers included Pankaj Sharma of Kai Industries Limited, Alaji Dembasanyang, the chief of Kiang Central, and the CEO of Mansa Konko Area Council, all expressed their delight at the launching of what they call a life-changing project. Ansumane Sonyasi for QTV News.
Gambian writers launched 3 books on Friday evening at a local hotel in Bijilo. A trailblazer of Gambian literature written by Cherno Omar Bari focuses on the life of Dr. Landry Peters, a renowned Gambian author. Closures, authored by Baba Silla, gives a picture of life in Africa, and The Dictator and Heretic by Dr. Momodu Sala, a collection of poems on the need to raise logical questions. Momodu Gajaga attended the ceremony, and here is his report.
Every author is sending a message to audience, writing with all its nightmares. The ultimate aim of the writer is to reach as many audience as possible. In the Gambia, not many people are accustomed to reading, sometimes making it meaningless to write a book. Despite these realities, the country's few writers are not relenting on their passion. Cherno Omar Bari, author of Trailblazer of Gambian Literature, has been speaking about what inspired him to write about Landry Peters.
Actually, the research started long time ago. It started, in actual fact, in 2000. So it has taken almost 18 years. It's a whole lifetime. It started in 2000 because I had the inspiration of a professor who was in the Gambia. Ironically, he was French. He's called Jean-Dominique Penel. And when he came, he said, "You have wealth of information you are not sharing with the public." And we said, "What is it?" He said, "Gambian literature. Have any of you ever written about Gambian literature?" We said, "No." He said, "Okay, this is what we will do. I will challenge you to study Gambian literature." And you know, it kicked off like that.
The book explores Peters' origins, convictions, and ideologies and writings. According to the author, Peters represented the nagging paradox of poet and writer, whose major academic orientation was in medical sciences. He also reflected the new emerging writers who place more emphasis on the African woes and challenges rather than restricting himself to the nationalistic approach taken by counterparts of his era. Adding to his collection of books, Baba Silla's literary work continues with sharp intellect and creativity on Closures, a book reflecting the life of Gambians and Africa at large in post-colonial times.
Closures is about 5 main characters in the book, finding closures in their lives. But as always, my technique is until you read to the very end, you will not know where the story will end, because I'm using the delayed message tactic. I'm also interfacing my writing with poetry. Some of those poems I've written in there. I had some family members who attacked me and said they will never be published whilst Jammeh was here, because Jammeh will take me to prison. But little did they know that what I had done was I had summarized all those other poems into this big poem I called The Land.
Dr. Momodu Sala, author of The Dictator and the Heretic, said a poem from his book.
Flies feast on the rotten flesh before we lick the bottom of the bowl. Wounded roads bite buttocks, toads roar in the harmattan, pot bellies bust like blisters. The stench of the decayed living fertilizes the bloated soil, ruptured boil. The lungs of the grave drink the pus of the wretched, vomiting green maggots and dunkulung. From the crossing to the back way, stealing is good, corruption nourishes, the world grows, virtue dies. The echo cuts off the flow of blood to the brain, clotted arteries oozing and gushing to irrigate. Banal decadence, virtual lenses, twisted view. Jom is a prisoner. Mansabengo of rats, cockroaches, and vultures. Power tricks and polyandry. We have no shame. We have no game. The necktie chokes, slavery vogues, still broods, reality is borrowed, introverted, hell-triggered. The results are rigged. They can only go one way, another way. Dead eats the patience. Sellers have been sold. Jalangs have never foretold. The peanuts grow cancer. Tribe is banter no more. The market is constipated. He was of wood. Drink your piss. Let the vultures desecrate your carcass. Feast of the maggots.
With the advent of social media, many people spend most of their time online. There was a time in the Gambia when students are compelled to read, not only to enhance their knowledge, but find pleasure in reading books.
Well, the advantage we had is we were not consumed by social media. There was no television, so there was hardly any radio. So the only way you could improve yourself was to read. And believe it or not, we used to go to the post office, sit under the street lights, just to be able to read. And also it was common to go to the Gambian National Library. And it was also a requirement by teachers that you have to read a book other than your textbooks on a weekly basis. So that was how the culture was developed. But now, of course, with the advent of social media and all the distractions, the culture of reading is dying. But the best thing you can do for yourself is really to read. And the challenge is for us to change our mindsets and start to read. Because if you don't read, people will not write. And if we write and you don't read, then of course I don't have the motivation to continue to write. But the best knowledge you can get is from books.
Omudu Gajaga, QTV News.
Riders for Health, an international non-profit organization that provides healthcare to rural African villages using motorcycles, ambulances by providing healthcare, will on Friday mark its 30th anniversary. Ahead of the celebration, a management council meeting of the heads of various country programs are currently meeting in Banjul to map out strategies of strengthening and expanding on the length and breadth of the continent. Babukar C reports.
Riders for Health was the idea of a British husband and wife in 1986. With the help of racing legend Randy Mamola, they contacted representatives of Save the Children, who told them that one of the biggest problems they had in getting the children immunized in Africa was reaching the ones in remote villages. When they traveled to Africa and saw the woeful state of the roads, they also noticed a lot of abandoned motorbikes left by the earlier aid workers that needed repair. Motorcycles are well suited for harsh African landscapes where roads are often busted, ruthed, or simply non-existent. With the help of Save the Children, the local government, and money raised at bike rallies in England, they set up pilot programs in Uganda and the Gambia and help acquire motorcycles and train riders and technicians. The organization is now operating in 7 African countries, whose council members are currently meeting in Banjul to map out ways and strategies of moving the organization. Declaring the council meeting of heads of countries open, the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Aissatou Touré, said her ministry is heavily reliant on transport in order to deliver health services.
My ministry highly value its partnership with Riders for Health. I am glad to point out that through this partnership, we have achieved significant improvements in our healthcare delivery by facilitating timely evacuation of antenatal women and other patients, and helps to reduce the burden of malaria, among others. As you conduct your deliberations during the course of the week, please allow me once again to assure you of my ministry's continued commitment to work to strengthen our relationship with your organization.
The program director, Riders for Health, the Gambia, Mr. Cherno Jallo, shared with us the importance of the council meeting ahead of the 30th anniversary of the organization.
It's mainly about policies and strategies of the organization. We are a council, we are the supreme body of our organization. We meet annually to look at strategies, programs, reports. We hear from every program and map a way forward. We change strategies, we look into new strategies, we look at funding issues. We also look at how we are working with our governments, our partners.
As part of events marking the 30th anniversary of the organization, 5 Nissan petrol wagons and 10 community ambulances will be handed to the President of the Republic on Friday. Babukar C, QTV News.
An organization seeking to empower and connect women in science, technology, engineering and mathematics, STEM, was held at the American Corner on Friday. The organization further aims to help women and girls pursue their dreams and become role models. Ajibintu Drame reports.
The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information Communication Infrastructure, Ibrahim Adabo, highlighted the role of government in the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals No. 5, that is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Dabo says the government has put numerous strategies and inventions geared towards the attainment of target results agreed nationally and internationally. He continues by saying the outcome of these strategies is to enhance women's participation in the economy to improve on their livelihood. Esther King, chairperson Gamchik, stated the objectives of the organization and challenges they faced.
Our main aim for the group is to empower and mentor girls in ICT. We see that there's a huge lack between boys and girls or men and women in the ICT sector or the STEM sector as we call it now. So our main objective is to get as many women in STEM, but not only to get them into STEM, but also to empower them, to inspire them, to mentor them and to guide them in this field. We've faced a lot of challenges, but thanks be to God, we've been able to overcome them with the help of our supporters and with the help of some of our sponsors. Some of the challenges that we've faced is writing to individuals and not getting a response. We've also faced challenges whereby we would go to places and it will not be that full. But then that has not stopped us from continuing and doing our work. Another main challenge that we faced is funding. As you know, doing all of this work includes money. And Gambia, there are a lot of ICT organizations now in the Gambia, and we understand that a lot of people are asking for sponsors as well. So funding has really been quite a challenge for us. It has even impacted the fact that we could not do some of the activities that we wanted to do over the year.
Fatu B. Cham, a participant on the Gamchik's training, highlights the impact of the training.
I may have used computers at home in schools, but I don't know how these apps have been invented. So this Gamchik's program has introduced me on how to create an app using the MIT App Inventor, which is mainly used by newcomers in computer.
Mukhtar Dabo, Director of Science, Technology and Innovation of MUHAS, discussed the gender gap in the science field.
Women constitute more or less half of the world's population, but women do not constitute half of the world's scientific workforce. Only about a third, globally, only about a third of women are in the scientific workforce. Now, coming to the home front, if we look at the Gambia, we have a total FTE, well, basically from the data we have received so far, we have a total of 33 FTE, which is full-time equivalent for researchers. Out of these 33, there's about 7 full-time researchers with PhD degrees. And interestingly, none of them are women. So basically, at the level of the secondary level, we have achieved what they call gender parity, meaning we have an almost equal number of boys and girls doing the sciences. But beyond the high school, the number begins to dwindle, up to the point where they become researchers. So we see that there is a big gap, a big gender gap in the participation of girls and women in the STEM.
Mary-Elaine Cherry gives the closing remarks by expressing delight and urges everyone to support the organization. The Gamchiks, a civil society organization of Gambian women and girls, mark their first anniversary to support themselves. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
Ex-students of the School for Enrolled Community Health Nurses on Saturday launched and held a congress for the school's first alumni. The event, which brought together community health nurses from across the country, was held at the CHN school in Mansakonko. And Sumana Isonyasi tells us more.
School for Community Health Nursing was founded in 1975 by the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare through the philanthropic assistance of the University of California, Santa Cruz in the United States. The establishment of the CHN school was meant for the improvement of maternal, child health and family planning services in the Gambia, bridging the urban-rural disparity in health service providers and to make quality health care services more accessible to Gambians in the rural areas. The idea for an alumni was conceived by CHNs pursuing advanced diploma in the School for Registered Nursing in Banjul. This ushered in the formation of a task force committee that spearheaded the formation of an alumni. The motto of the Community Health Nursing School alumni is unification, advocacy and development with the optimum objective of supporting the agenda of the CHN school. In his deliberation, the chairperson of the task force committee, Mr. Yaya Jallo, said it took his committee 1 year 6 days to prepare and complete the assignments for the launching and congress, citing significant roles played by his committee members that made the historic event a reality. He said the event is not only a gathering to launch and elect an executive committee, but also to celebrate the magnanimous efforts and commitment of his task force members, without which the event would not have been possible. Delivering the keynote address on the theme, The Importance of an Alumnus Giving Back to its Alma Mater, a veteran community health nurse, Babukar Cham, reminded all community health nurses of their ambassadorial role and challenged them to be nationalistic service providers. For his part, the Director of Nursing Services, Lamin Marong, commended the brains behind the formation of the alumni. This, he added, would enable them to give back to the school that has imparted knowledge and skills in many young people who are today serving in various health institutions across the country. Ansumane Sonyasi for QTV News.
Before we end this bulletin, we recap our main stories. Hearing at the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission TRRC continues into the second week. The fourth witness to testify is retired Captain Alaji Kante. The retiree explains to the Commission his dissatisfaction in the Gambian National Army and how things unfolded leading to the 1994 coup d'etat. Gambians have been sharing divergent views on the ongoing constitutional review process through the nationwide consultation tour spearheaded by officials of the Constitutional Review Commission. Key among them is women's participation. Commissioner Janet Salanjai has described their participation as overwhelming. The first electrification project in Kiang has been launched by the National Water and Electricity Company NAWEC on Saturday. The project, which is expected to last for 18 months, would provide access to electricity for the whole of Kiang and over 80 communities in Lower River region. Gambian writers launched 3 books on Friday evening at a local hotel in Vigilo. A trailblazer of Gambian literature written by Cherno Omar Bari focuses on the life of Dr. Landry Peters, a renowned Gambian author. Closures, authored by Baba Silla, gives a picture of life in Africa, and The Dictator and Heretic by Dr. Mamadou Salah, a collection of poems on the need to raise logical questions. That's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you for watching.